Hey there. I'm going to briefly explain how to complete your timesheets for the clients that you work with at Village Caregiving. We try to make these as simple as possible for you, so let me just jump right into it. Here's an image of a blank timesheet that we provide to our caregivers here at Village Caregiving. If you've been hired remotely, or you don't have a way to print these, or you've run out, don't worry about it. Just know you can also fill these out on a piece of notebook paper or a piece of blank printer paper. Just fill them out in a similar fashion to how I'm going to explain. Before I get into completing your timesheets, let me just talk about pay periods and paydays. We have 2 pay periods each month. The first pay period of each month is going to be the 1st all the way to the 15th of the month. The second pay period of each month is going to be the 16th all the way to the end of the month. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using January as my example month. So the first pay period of January is going to be January 1st to the 15th. The second pay period of January is going to be the 16th to the end of the month, which is the 31st. Those pay periods correlate to our pay days. You're going to be paid twice a month. We call this semi-monthly pay. The first payday of each month is going to be the 5th, and the second payday of each month is going to be the 20th. You'll always get paid on those 2 days. Unless those days fall on a weekend or a bank holiday, we can't authorize direct deposits, so you'll get paid the business day before that. So just know you'll never get paid later than the 5th or the 20th. So for the pay period of January 1st to the 15th, you'll get paid for those hours on the 20th of January. For the second pay period of the month, which is January 16th to the 31st, you'll get paid for those hours on February 5th. So now let's jump into timesheets. Again, this is your starting point. The first thing you're going to do with your timesheet is fill out the dates and your clients' names. So we're using the first half of January as an example. In the left-hand column, you'll see I'm listing the dates of the pay period. Now, I don't work with my clients 7 days a week, but I'm still including every single date of the pay period here. So the 1st all the way to the 15th, including the days that I'm not going to be recording any hours. At the bottom, I'm putting a row for the total. That's just so I can see how many hours I've worked with each client and how many hours I can expect to be paid for come payday. At the top of each column, I'm just putting the names of my clients. You can also put the initials if you'd like. Now, let's jump into my first day at work. I work Monday with Mr. Smith. I always go to his house at 8 a.m. on Monday morning and stay till noon. That's a 4-hour shift. You don't have to record when you got to work or when you left. All I need to know is on each date, how many hours you worked with each client. So I worked with Mr. Smith for 4 hours on January the 3rd. Now, that was my morning shift. I work a shift in the afternoon with Mr. Hansen. I always go to his house from 12:30 to 3:30. That's a 3-hour shift. I'm recording my hours with Mr. Hansen for the 3rd of January underneath his name. You'll see that here. Now, you see I didn't work any hours with Mr. Jones on Monday. That's because I work with him on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so just leave that day blank. No need to write anything here. So I work with Mr. Smith Monday through Friday in the mornings. So I'm recording the 4 hours again. I worked that day on Tuesday. I got there at 8. I left at noon. As soon as I jumped back in my car, I whipped out my timesheet and wrote out how many hours I worked with him. Now, the difference here on Tuesday is I don't go back to Mr. Hansen's. Instead, I go to Mr. Jones, and I work a 6-hour shift with Mr. Jones. I will get there at 12:30. I leave at 6:30. I don't need to write that down. All I write down is how many hours I worked on that day with Mr. Jones. I go back to work on Wednesday. I work my 4-hour shift with Smith. I go back to Mr. Hansen's in the afternoon, and then so on throughout the week. So this is a full week of work. You'll see I made it to all my shifts. I got some pretty good hours. Now, I continue to fill this out throughout the week. Every day when I finish my shift, I get back in my car. When I get home, I record the number of hours I worked. Now, there's always going to be opportunities at Village Caregiving to pick up shifts. Let's say your office manager reaches out to you and asks you to pick up a shift with Mr. Witt. It's going to be on the 15th of January, which is a part of this pay period. You accept the shift. It's a midnight to noon shift. It's an overnight shift. You work 12 hours. Your office manager was generous enough to offer you a bonus. You got a $20 bonus. All you're doing here is recording that bonus. So write it anywhere in the cell that you record the shift. I just need to know how much bonus we were giving you so we can make sure we get you paid for it. You'll see at the bottom here, I just listed the total hours I worked with each client. You can see I worked with Mr. Smith 10 times for 4 hours each. It's a total of 40 hours, and you can see how many hours I worked with each one. This gives you an idea of how much money you can expect to make come payday. Now, there's always going to be unique circumstances when you're working with your clients. We've all worked in home health before, so we know there's going to be times when you show up to work and no one's home. Now, when that does happen, you're going to want to reach out to your office manager. You're going to let them know, hey, I can't get through the door. I tried calling their number. No one's picking up. We're going to do our best to get a hold of them. At the end of the day, if you showed up to work and you were expecting to work and they weren't there, that's not your fault. We're going to pay you for that. But what I want you to do is record the hours you were scheduled to work and then just make a note that your client was not home. Any helpful notes you can put on your timesheets for your office manager is important. So feel free to put anything you'd like on there. Now, you might be working a case, let's say with Mr. Smith, where the commute might be far, might be a very high acuity case. Whatever the case might be, you and your office manager may have come to an agreement to get an increased pay rate for that case. Let's say you and your office manager agreed to get paid $16 an hour for that case. Make a note right here up at the top. So again, any helpful hints about timesheets or pay, whatever it is, make sure you include it on your timesheet so your office manager is on the same page as you. So you'll see here, this as an office manager, I understand that this caregiver is going to be getting paid $16 an hour for all the shifts they work with Mr. Smith. A few important notes before we wrap it up. Get your timesheets turned in on time. Your office manager will always give you a few days to get those timesheets turned in. We cannot pay you without the timesheets, so you have to turn those in on time. Like I said before, include any notes that the payroll team should be aware of. For instance, any bonuses you pick up, increased pay rates, maybe you get to record some mileage for something, whatever the case might be, include that there on the timesheet so your office manager is aware. I always suggest recording your hours daily so you're not trying to remember what you worked 2 weeks ago. Also, your office manager might reach out to you halfway through pay period and ask you, hey, how many hours did you work with Mr. Smith? It's nice to know that you've already recorded those hours. You can jump right to it and get back to him quickly. Last thing, write clearly. It's going to be difficult for me to pay you and track your hours if I can't understand what you're writing. If you have any questions about timesheets, please reach out to your office manager. They'd be more than happy to help. Thanks.